and girls, this is the Panama Canal. It's your lesson on globalization, which shows the importance and the role that Panama plays in globalization. Globalization can be defined as the interconnection of countries, people throughout the world. It's been with us for thousands of years, but in the last few decades it has really speeded up, it's intensified, especially with the internet. Communications have never been so easy. We live in a global village. That term was coined because it is so easy to connect, trade, transnational companies operating around the world. And the Panama Canal shortens the ship journeys, hence transporting merchandise quicker around the globe. And we are at the Miraflores locks. The video I did before introducing the Panama Canal was from the top floor of that building. And it's February 18th, 2017. It's the driest month in Panama, so we're very lucky to be here on the Saga Sapphire, where I am giving a series of talks on Sir Francis Drake. And in the video now you see what they call a mule. They've been here for decades. They pull the ships through the lock gates. And I'm really hoping that you'll enjoy today's lesson, which will comprise watching a DVD and slides and learning about this fascinating country of Panama, 9 degrees north of the equator, just south of Central America, linking it to South America.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please?
The lock gates have just opened. That's because we're in the first chamber and the water from the lake in the background of the picture has filtered through the culverts, the underground tunnels either side of the chambers, filling us up and lifting us level to these gates that are opening in front of us. And the same procedure will be repeated when we leave the second gate to enter the lake. There is another set of locks about a mile in front called Pedro y Miguel. So this is the Miraflores locks with the mule on the left and right, ready to take the torque and tow us into the second lock. There's the tourist tower. Hardly anybody there at the moment, but usually it's very crowded. And the building on the left-hand side, which looks very elegant. If it were built today, we'd say the same, and that was finalized in 1913. Panama is one of the most spectacular countries in the world. It links 2 oceans with a 50-mile isthmus between the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, and the Pacific Ocean. The ship is being towed through the second chamber. We're looking at the tourist tower, which replaced the one that I used to visit in the 1980s. It was like a football terrace. It was only the height of the first floor with a weatherproof, transparent roof. And you can see the mules here pulling us through the canal. And these mules have been here for decades. They're given the name mules because they literally did all the donkey work here from the 16th century to the 20th century, which started with conveying treasure and supplies from Panama City over to the north shore at Nombre de Dios. So these machines have inherited the donkey work throughout the centuries that has built Panama. We are entering the Pedro Miguel locks, the second stage of the transit. And we are being lifted by one chamber. And in the background you can see the Millennium Bridge. Obviously when I came here in 1983, first of all, there was no bridge here. The Panama Canal opened in 1914. It was completed by the Americans. Ferdinand de Lesseps tried to build a canal, a sea-level canal, through the Isthmus of Panama after success at Suez. in Egypt. He was defeated. The Americans took over and built a canal using locks to traverse the mountainous terrain of Panama. The canal is 50 miles long. It runs north to west through the tropical rainforest. It is truly a spectacular engineering wonder of the world, and I'm very surprised that you never hear of children learning about it in England. This is a good view as Turner travels through the Panama Canal. You've got the Pedro Miguel locks in front of us with the Millennium Bridge in the background, which was opened in around 2000 with a ship going underneath, entering the Gaylord Cut. So we're well into the transit, which should take us about 6-8 hours. It's truly a remarkable experience. The lock gates are opening. We are going to exit the Pedro Miguel locks. You can see the lock gates down on the left there. A big difference between the level of water. Here the level is equal. The set of lock gates are opening for our exit. We will have a long run now through the center of the country. We are a little bit closer to the Millennium Bridge. Thousands of lives were lost in building this canal through the pestilence of malaria. They would have to spray the tropical rainforests with paraffin to help preserve the lives. The canal opened in 1914, and the first ship that sailed through was the steamship Ancon. And the person who paid the least amount of money, I think it was about 35 cents he paid, was a very good swimmer. Because ships are charged through how much water they displace based upon tonnage. If they traverse the Panama Canal, they save a lot of money because they don't have to sail around the continent of South America. And because there are new lock gates on the south and north side of the Panama Canal, any size ship in the world can now transit the Isthmus of Central America. And in the picture, left and right of the bow, you will see the mules pulling us through the lock gates of Pedro and Miguel. It's a treat to be here because the public are not allowed to watch within the parameters of the Esclusas San Pedro Miguel. You can only see it from the road. So it's a real treat to be at the bow of the Saga Sapphire on the 18th of February 2017. We're in a cutting in the Panama Canal going north on our transit on Turner's Travels, and we are in the Gaylord Cut. But when the Panamanians took over the canal in the year 2000 or 1999, they reverted it to the Culebra Cut. And a lot of what was excavated here was used as a causeway in Balboa, which forms the entrance to the port of Panama City, which is a very picturesque causeway going out into the Pacific Ocean. I'm very pleased to be here in 2017 because in 1983, on the right-hand side, the east bank, I remember photographing a ship passing through this cut, which was excavated by primitive excavation material, 1912. And if you're lucky, you can see some of the world's biggest ships through here now because the canal is open to everybody due to the widening of the canal with two sets of locks at Miraflores and at Gatun on the north side. The wind is picked up from the northeast and we're looking at a vessel coming through the Panama Canal. We're in the center area where there's a lake, and this is the reservoir of water that will pass through the locks to raise and lower the ships. Truly a fantastic experience to be in the middle of Panama, the Isthmus of Central America. We are being admitted to the Gatun locks, which are the last set of locks on the Panama Canal before we enter the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean side of the Panama Canal. The gates are opening. We are at the same level. And if you look on the left side, you will see the low level of water in the middle of the chamber. You can see the Atlantic Ocean in the far distant background. The ship in front of us looked like they only just fitted inside the width of the chamber. We are being towed by the mules at a speed of approximately 1 mile an hour. And we're very lucky to be going south to north because the sun is behind the camera as opposed to shooting against the light. Two tugs in front, they will be escorting us into the Caribbean Sea when we are lowered into the final chamber, which is occupied by the container vessel forward of our position. And you can see on the left chamber that the water levels now has risen. And these mules have been in operation for decades because they never found another way of towing the ship. And to bring a line to the ship from shore, they've tried all sorts of methods like harpooning the line, but they still rely upon two men rowing a boat with the line and attaching it to a line that's dropped from the bow by the crew. The gates are opening and they're lowering us to the middle section of this three-tier lock gate. The ship in front is now at sea level, so we're being towed into the center chamber. We've got a good video here of the mule pulling the ship on the starboard side, keeping the lines taut, regulating the smooth flow of this ship into the middle chamber. This video clip shows you the level of the water in the final chamber, which is at sea level. The container vessel is being released into the Atlantic Ocean and it's our turn next to be lowered. The lock gates are opening to admit us into the last chamber, which as you can see is higher than sea level, where we'll be lowered and released into the Great North Sea, Atlantic Ocean or the Caribbean Sea. Three names that have been used in the course of history. It's going to be taking us about 12 to 11 hours to transit the canal. You can reckon on a 12-hour transit. I think we're going to get through in about 11 today. We're very lucky that we entered about an hour after sunrise, so the passengers on this ship are getting the maximum hours of daylight to witness one of the unforgettable days in our lives. Here in Panama, a country that ought to receive more publicity and fame than it does. It's truly a spectacular country. Tourism is not just about the canal, they tell us. They've got indigenous people living in the tropical rainforest. They've got 360 islands called the San Blas, occupied by the San Blas Indians, which occupy the north coast, east of here all the way down to Colombia. But there is a restriction. There's no road still linking Darien to Colombia. So we're being tugged in to the final lock in our transit. A lot of crew members or cruise passengers, they've gone through the canal in both directions. But it's a thrilling experience to be here, and I hope these videos will illuminate your interest for you to consider one day transiting the Panama Canal yourself. An unforgettable view. 4 mules guiding the bow of the Saga Sapphire, escorted by Vanguard tubs. 3 ships in front of us at the level of the Caribbean Sea on a beautiful sunny day. day in Panama, the driest month of the year. The lock gates are almost fully open. We are at sea level to be released into the Caribbean Sea. From here it will take about an hour to get out to the breakwater to be in line with the coast, where the Saga Sapphire would turn left or swing northwest along the coast of Panama, and tomorrow she will dock at Puerto Limon in Costa Rica. This is an exciting video because you're looking at the new stretch of the Panama Canal at Gatun. They've widened the Panama Canal. What people mean by that is that Miraflores and Gatun, there's an extra set of locks which accommodate the largest ships in the world. So Panama eventually will be reaping in more revenue. So the ship in front of us is a Panamax. It's wider than the docks, the chambers that we passed through today, on the Saga Sapphire. And the Saga Sapphire paid £100,000 to transit today, costing each passenger's bill about £150, which was built into their passenger price tag. Ships are charged according to how much water they displace. So £100,000 for the Saga Sapphire as we look across the original Panama Canal to the new cut. There's a visitor center there with DVD showing you how it was all built in the last few years. This is truly an exciting era for the development of the Panama Canal.